Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where silence kills, frostbite is your closest companion, and a single breath can give away your position. You're not just in World War II, you're crouched in a frozen trench somewhere on the Eastern Front, wearing a tattered Soviet uniform that barely fits. The sky is gray, the trees are bare, and the ground beneath you is harder than any mattress you've ever laid on. Your fingers are numb, your rifle's icy to the touch, and the only warmth in your body comes from the memory of soup. Maybe. You are a Soviet sniper, and you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and what time it is in your part of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sun hasn't risen yet, but your day has. You wake in a dugout no larger than a bathtub, lined with branches and frozen dirt. Your breath clouds in the air, a soft ghost in the darkness. You don't dare strike a match, light draws fire, and out here, even a flicker can be fatal. You shift slowly, each joint complaining. Your uniform is soaked from yesterday's snowmelt, and there's a layer of frost on your collarbone. You're not sure if it formed overnight or if your sweat simply froze mid-battle. Your rifle sleeps next to you, wrapped in burlap. You unwrap it like a relic, because it is one. A Mosin Nagant 9130th with a PU scope bolted on at a drunken angle. It's older than you, maybe, and probably seen more action. Some snipers name their rifles. You haven't. You're afraid naming it might make it feel real, and if it's real, it can be lost. You pull yourself to your knees and peek out over the lip of your foxhole. There's nothing but white and pine. But it's never nothing, is it? Out here, silence lies. The Germans are quiet in the mornings. So are wolves. So are mines. The best you can do is listen for the sound of the unnatural, a snapped twig, a cigarette cough, or the low grind of boots through powder. The Red Army barely knows you exist. You've got no official rank, no medals, no clean uniform. You were handed a rifle and told, kill fascists. That's your job description. No dental, no hazard pay. A lot of people think snipers have it easy. Just sit back and shoot. But you don't sit. You crawl. You don't shoot for fun. You shoot when the math lines up, when your pulse is still, when your breath is soft enough to not fog your scope. And when you do shoot, you better hit the heart or the head, or you've just told the world where you are. You shift position, slowly, deliberately. The snow is your blanket, your shield, your enemy. It creaks under your weight like it's snitching. You bite your lip to stop your teeth from chattering. One sound can mean a rain of machine gun fire. You think of home. A place that might still be standing. You picture a stove, bread, warm hands. But you can't afford to miss the moment. Nostalgia gets you killed. You scan again. To your left, a tree line so dense even light hesitates to go through it. To your right, a snow-covered ridge. Somewhere out there, maybe, another sniper just like you is watching the same ridge, breathing slow, waiting for you to blink. You shift again. This time your elbow sinks into a melted patch of snow. Beneath it, something soft. Fabric? You freeze. It's not a log, it's a body. You don't scream. You don't have the energy. But your stomach knots in that cold, ancient way. The way it does when you know something's very wrong. He's been here longer than you. His face is half eaten by frost. A Soviet patch is barely visible on his shoulder. His scope still shines. You wonder, did he even get a shot off? Or did he just lie here, quietly fading into the white? That's when the first artillery shell lands. It doesn't hit near you, but the sound. It splits the sky open like someone tearing a bedsheet. You press your head into the dirt and clench your eyes shut. The ground shakes. Your ears ring. For a moment, you forget where you are. Then the second one hits closer. And you remember. You scramble back into your hole. You are not a warrior. You are not a hero. You are a thin-skinned, underfed human with a frozen rifle and no backup. You wonder what brilliant general thought snipers should work alone. Historians still argue whether Soviet sniper teams were an effective use of manpower or a desperate measure. What's clear is this: you are alone, and someone somewhere decided that was good strategy. The barrage stops. You count to 60. Then again. Then again. Silence returns, like a beast that's eaten its fill. You lift your head, scope to eye. Nothing. Then, movement. You freeze. Just like the last guy did. You steady your breath. A figure steps out from the woods. German uniform. Helmet. Rifle. You track them through your scope. One step. Another. They stop. They turn. They look directly at you. And then, smile. No shot. No sound. Just the smile. Then they step back into the trees. You lower your rifle, pulse a jackhammer. Was that a ghost? A mistake? Or are they trying to bait you? Either way, your day just got longer. You lie flat for a long time after that. Long enough for the cold to sneak back under your skin and make itself at home. Long enough to doubt whether you saw anything at all. Maybe the smile was just your reflection in the scope. Maybe you're hallucinating. You haven't slept more than an hour at a time in weeks. But there's no time to unravel your own sanity, not when you're still alive and still holding a rifle. In the Red Army, alive is a pretty generous definition. If your blood is inside your body and you're technically breathing, congratulations, you're combat ready. You finally shift. Just a little. Just enough to relieve the weight from your frozen side. And that's when you remember the real reason you're here. You were volunteered. Which, in the Soviet Union, is code for you didn't say no fast enough. They picked you because you had good eyesight. Because you hit a few bottles off a fence at training camp. Because someone higher up needed bodies and figured, hey, you'll do. And maybe because they liked how you didn't complain much when they handed you a rifle with the bolt action so rusted it might count as a historic relic. This isn't a job. It's a sentence. Not quite death, but not far off. You learned that the moment you arrived at the sniper detachment. A shack. That's all it was. Half a roof. 2 instructors, one of whom smelled like kerosene and regret. You and a dozen others huddled on the floor while they barked out what they generously called training. The rules were simple. Rule 1, hit what you aim at. Rule 2, don't be seen. Rule 3, if you get caught, bite your own tongue off before they make you talk. No pressure, right? They gave you 12 bullets for the entire week. Missed 3, and they took the rifle away. One guy missed 5 and was reassigned to the volunteer assault squads. That's Soviet for go run at tanks until you stop moving. You learned to crawl without sound, to breathe through your nose in bursts, to lay perfectly still for hours. A horse died outside the training shed once, and instead of burying it, the instructors just threw a tarp over it and told you to use it for concealment drills. You lay under that tarp for 10 hours. In August. It was, in a word, motivational. By the end of that week, you knew the exact sound a German soldier's boot made when it hit a branch. You could spot movement at 600 meters through the warped glass of your PU scope. And you had, unfortunately, also developed a rash from prolonged burlap exposure. War glamour, baby. But here's the part no one talks about, how it feels to be trained to wait. not fight, not lead. Just wait. You're taught to be patient in a way that changes your nervous system. You learn to think in pulses and pauses. You forget the concept of later. There is only now and the next breath, and whether or not it will be your last. You remember your first kill. It wasn't clean, not like they said it would be. You aimed for the throat, but hit the cheek. The man screamed. He fell backward, clawing at his own face. You didn't get a second shot. You just lay there, watching him die slow. His comrades dragged him off, shouting. You were already crawling away. They said you'd feel something. Pride, guilt, relief. But what you actually felt was nothing. Just cold. Historians still argue whether that numbing effect, the emotional flattening of repeated killing, was a result of Soviet indoctrination or pure human survival instinct. Either way, it's real. You felt it settle over you like snow. You're no longer a person. You didn't expect luxury, but you thought there'd be something. A proper barracks, maybe. A real scope that didn't fog up when you exhaled too hard. Even just a coat that didn't smell like 5 other men who didn't make it. But no. Soviet sniper training is more of a suggestion than a system. You arrived with a rifle slung over your shoulder and a sergeant who looked at you like he'd already seen your grave. Your training began with a single sentence. If you live a week, we'll teach you how not to die. Inspirational, really. Your first week? Mud, frozen boots. An empty stomach and a full bladder you weren't allowed to relieve until sundown. You were told to watch. Not listen. Not learn. Just watch. Other snipers, mostly veterans, crawling into the woods and not returning. Or returning with faces grayer than the sky. You'd lie on your belly for hours in the dirt, rifle pointed at nothing, waiting for them to shout your name so you could hit a bottle hung from a tree branch 200 meters away. Miss once? They laughed. Miss twice? They took away your rifle for a day. Miss 3 times? You didn't miss 3 times. And even if you had, where were you going to go? Soviet snipers weren't trained like elite troops. They were filtered like coffee grounds through desperation. A good shot, a bad pair of lungs, or just being smaller than average could land you in this unit. Some were women. Some were boys. Some, like you, were simply unlucky enough to be good at staying quiet. Historians still debate whether this was brilliant resourcefulness or plain, cruel efficiency. What's clear, there was no ceremony, no grand welcome to the sniper brotherhood. Just a cold bunk, a single blanket, and a rifle that might or might not be zeroed properly. You remember your first equipment inspection. You held out your Mosin Nagant like it was a prized violin. The instructor snorted, took one look at your scope, and said, "This was dropped in 1940 and never fixed. Good luck." That was the end of the lesson. Your gear included a rusted knife, a mess tin with someone else's initials scratched in, and a pair of winter gloves that had holes in all the fingers. When you asked for new ones, the quartermaster laughed and handed you 2 strips of cloth. Wrap 'em? Pretend. You did. Camouflage was even more fun. You didn't get a ghillie suit. You didn't get camouflage netting. You got potatoes sacks. Literally. The same burlap used to haul beets across the Urals. They cut a hole in one and called it recon ready. You cut branches, you rubbed dirt on your face, and you prayed no one with actual binoculars looked too closely. You once spent 12 hours building a nest under a pile of leaves. It collapsed when a hedgehog ran through it. That's not a metaphor. That actually happened. The hedgehog survived. You nearly didn't. And speaking of animal companions, did you know Soviet snipers sometimes trained with dogs? Not to help with killing. No, that would make too much sense. They were trained to carry spare ammunition, or drag away wounded comrades. You never got a dog, you barely got soap. But you did get a spotter once. For one glorious week. His name was Leo Ha. He was 17, missing a front tooth, and swore by his mother's grave that chewing birch bark sharpened his night vision. You don't know if it worked, but he always smelled vaguely of a forest fire. He'd lie next to you for hours, whispering crude jokes under his breath and gently nudging you when he saw movement. You never asked what he did before the war. You were afraid of getting too attached. One morning he nudged you, said, "Smoke, 11 o'clock, small fire, could be a German warming up." You nodded, scoped in, waited. Then Leo Ha sneezed. One single, cursed sneeze. You both froze. Then the bullets came. You don't remember crawling. You don't remember how long it took to drag him behind that log. You just remember the blood on your hands, and the way he said, "Don't tell my sister I died because of hay fever." He didn't die right away. It took hours. You stayed with him, held his hand. He didn't ask for his mother. He asked if you still had birch bark. You lied and said yes. After Leo Ha, they didn't assign you another spotter. Just more solo missions. They said, "You did well, operate independently." But what they meant was, you survived. So now, we expect you not to need anyone. Because in Soviet doctrine, a sniper wasn't supposed to be part of a team. You were a ghost, a rumor, the threat of death whispered among German ranks. But you weren't trained for that. Not really. You were trained to hold still, to breathe slow, and to not think about how you're one lucky ricochet away from becoming part of the landscape. You look down at your hands now. They shake, not from fear, from cold, from hunger, from lack of sleep. Your trigger finger is swollen. Again, you flex it, wincing. Not for the first time. You wonder if the rifle would even fire if you needed it to. But that's the thing. You always need it to. You check your pockets. One last biscuit, a piece of string, a Soviet coin you keep for luck, even though you don't believe in it. And tucked deep in the corner, your only luxury, a stub of pencil and a scrap of paper. You used to write little notes, not letters, just thoughts, observations, lines from songs you almost remember. Now, you don't write anything, not because you're scared someone will find them, but because you don't want to admit you're still trying to make sense of any of this. The sky darkens, snow begins to fall again. Silent, soft, like it doesn't know the ground is already soaked in blood. You lower your head, rest your cheek against the wood of your rifle, and wait, because that's what you were trained to do. Snow settles across your back like a slow burial. You've been lying still for 3 hours now, unmoving, unblinking for long stretches, your cheek welded to the rifle stock. The wind picks up, brushing pine needles across your face, like nature's way of checking if you're still alive. You are. Barely. You adjust your camouflage. Not that fancy netting you've seen in old films. No. You're wearing layers of burlap strips, pine twigs, and, most unfortunately, what used to be someone's moth-eaten blanket. You stink of mildew and desperation, but you look like part of the landscape, which is the point. Blending in, they told you, is the key to survival. Camouflage is your armor, the instructor said, right before falling asleep drunk next to the latrine. You slowly, gently, shift a bit of the sackcloth covering your face. Just enough to peer through the sniper scope. It's fogged again. Not from weather. From you. Your breath. Your own warmth is your worst enemy. You reach into your coat and pull out a matchstick. Not to light. Never. You wedge it under the scope's rubber eyepiece to vent the fog. Crude, but it works. The tricks you pick up out here aren't found in any manual. They're passed down through grunts and grumbles. The kind of wisdom that smells like bad soup and worse socks. You've heard about the Germans' camouflage, their white winter smocks, their fieldcraft training. It's not magic, just money. Real preparation. You've got a potato sack, dirt under your nails, and a strong sense of obligation not to die before lunch. A rustle. You freeze. You've heard that sound before. Dry brush shifting just slightly. A footstep too cautious. There's someone out there, and they're trying not to be noticed. You slowly pan your scope. Nothing. Then, there. A flicker. A branch moves the wrong way. Not wind. Weight. A presence. You don't shoot. Not yet. You've learned to wait. 1 shot makes you seen. 2 shots make you dead. So you do what every Soviet sniper does best. You vanish without moving. Your breath slows. Muscles lock. Your eyes flick, but your head stays still. You become background noise. A part of the scene. Less a person, more a rock with opinions. It's the only way to stay alive. Historians still argue whether Soviet sniper tactics were truly superior or just more brutal. Some say the environment trained you better than any officer. Others say it was sheer survivorship bias. If you lived long enough, you figured it out. And that's the truth, isn't it? Every sniper out here is self-taught after week 1. It's like being handed a paintbrush and told to recreate the Mona Lisa, while someone throws grenades at you. Sometimes your camouflage works a little too well. Like that one time you woke up mid-mission with a squirrel trying to nest in your coat. Or the time you sneezed and scared off a fox that had been sleeping on your legs. That fox looked betrayed. You felt a bit guilty. You've learned to blend in so completely that even you forget you're human sometimes. There's a story that floats around your unit. About a sniper who spent a week buried in a haystack. Didn't move. Didn't sleep. Just waited until the German general he'd been assigned to kill finally strolled by, 3 days late. They say when he finally took the shot, he didn't even flinch. Just calmly exhaled, and then lay still for 2 more days before crawling out at night. No one remembers his name. Just the story. That's how it is with you people. You don't get remembered. You get recycled. The wind kicks up again, and your burlap flutters softly against your leg. You pin it down with your elbow, quietly cursing the lack of a real cloak or uniform. Not that they'd give you one. Snipers are considered a luxury by command. They send you out when they want something to go away quietly. You're the surgical knife in an army full of hammers. And they don't like knives they can't control. Even your own comrades are uneasy around you. They don't trust snipers. Too quiet, too calculating. Too not like them. You've heard the whispers. He's got the sniper stare. Don't let him near your dog. I bet he counts his kills before bed. You don't. You used to. But once you hit double digits, the numbers stopped meaning anything. Now, when you pull the trigger, it's not about score. It's about silence. You shift again. Carefully. Your hip has gone completely numb. You're lying on frozen pine cones. You're 90% sure there's a spider nesting under your knee. You don't dare move it. You remember a girl from school. Mira, maybe? Mila? Something like that. You remember how she'd sit in the sun and laugh so loud you could hear it down the street. You wonder where she is now. If she ever saw the posters with smiling Red Army soldiers and thought, I bet war looks like that. It doesn't. Out here, war is burlap and biting winds. It's camouflage made of old sacks and stolen rags. It's watching your own breath fade out while hoping it's not the last time you see it. It's lying in a forest, so quiet you start to hear your own heartbeat. And when you do hear movement, again, faint and deliberate, you know it's not yours. You take a slow breath, adjust the scope, and wait. 1 shot. That's all you get. And this time, You're ready. You shouldn't have breathed. That's what you tell yourself afterward. Not that you missed, because you didn't. The shot was clean, the recoil familiar. The man in the snow dropped instantly, like a puppet with its strings cut. You even stayed down, stayed still, let the silence fold back around you like a quilt stitched with nerves and snowflakes. But you breathed. Just once. A shallow gasp through your chapped lips, fogging your scope, giving off the tiniest puff of warmth into the cold, indifferent air. And the forest noticed. It starts subtly. A tension in the trees. The way birds, if there are any left, go silent. The way the wind seems to stop just to listen. You feel it in your gut, even before the sound reaches your ears. A crack. Then another. Not wood, not random. Rifle fire. And it's close. They saw you. You roll left, burying yourself deeper in the snow. Your heart beats like it's trying to dig a tunnel out of your chest. You press your cheek into the cold earth and keep your rifle close, fingers frozen to the trigger guard. This is the part they never train you for, when you become the hunted. Sniper duels aren't like in the movies. There's no witty banter, no dramatic crawl to higher ground. There's just mud in your teeth, blood in your mouth from biting your lip too hard, and a burning awareness that somewhere out there is another person who sees just as well as you do, and wants you just as dead. You're lucky if you spot them first. You didn't. You inch backward, then freeze. Another shot. Closer this time. A warning or a guess. Either way, you don't have much time. You try to calculate. Did your muzzle flash give you away? Was there shimmer off your scope lens? Did your camouflage shift when you exhaled? Or, and this is worse, are they just better than you? Historians still debate whether the German snipers were technically superior to Soviet ones. They had better optics, longer range rifles, and more training. But the Soviets, they had the cold, the terrain, and the kind of desperation that couldn't be taught, only survived. You start to crawl, not forward, not sideways, down. You find a shallow depression in the ground, maybe a crater from last week's shelling, and slide in, slowly, deliberately. Every inch feels like a mile. Your breath is so shallow now it barely counts. You can hear your heartbeat in your ears. Then something strange happens. You see him. The other sniper. Just a flicker, movement behind a log. His rifle peeks out. He's scanning, not at you, past you. He doesn't know exactly where you are. Yet, you make a decision most people wouldn't. You don't shoot. You wait. He moves again. A little shift, the kind you only see when you've spent months learning to spot leaves that twitch the wrong way. You could take him out now. Maybe. But if you miss, it's over. So you do something harder. You disappear. Again, you press yourself so deep into the earth that you feel like you're sinking. You let snow pile over your legs. Your fingers curl under your rifle. Your cheek goes numb. You watch. You listen. He doesn't see you. Not yet. But you stay there for 7 hours. 7. The sun sinks. The forest turns gold, then gray. Your stomach gnaws at itself. Your bladder's a hostage situation. Your back has taken up amateur carpentry and is building a full bookshelf of regrets. Still, you don't move. Because you know the moment you do, the game ends. Sometime around hour 4, you start talking to yourself. Not out loud, just internally. Narrating your thoughts like you're in a novel. It's the only thing keeping your sanity from falling out your ears. You think about your old life. The time before snow, before rifles, before the world decided you'd be more useful as a silhouette in the brush. You remember a train ride to the city with your mother. You remember holding her hand, both of you wrapped in scarves, buying fried dough from a cart. You remember how she smiled at you like nothing bad could ever happen. Then you remember her telegram. Son, fight hard. Return safe. I wait always. You haven't written back. Not because you can't, but because you don't know what to say anymore. You're not the son she remembers. You're not anyone she remembers. There's a term soldiers whisper, gone to glass. It means someone who's seen too much, stayed out too long, stared through their scope until their soul turned brittle and hollow. You wonder if you're there yet. You almost drift off, just for a second. Micro-sleep. Dangerous. But then a twig snaps. It's not the sniper. It's something else. A patrol? You peer through your scope again. Nothing. Then, movement. Boots, German soldiers. 3 of them. They're sweeping the area. One's got a radio. One's got a dog. Oh no, the dog picks up your trail. You know you didn't leave a scent. Not really. You haven't moved in hours, but dogs don't care about logic. They care about instinct. You ready your rifle. You don't want to shoot a dog. You really, truly don't. But it's coming straight toward you. Closer. Closer. And then, another crack. The dog drops. You whip your scope back to the sniper's nest. Gone. He took the shot. He just saved your life. You don't understand why. Maybe he saw the patrol and realized if they found you, they'd find him next. Maybe he respected the silence you gave him earlier. Maybe, just maybe, this war broke something in him too. You don't wait to say thank you. You just crawl. Very slowly. Very quietly. And you vanish again. You don't meet many legends in war. Most of them are dead before they become stories. But occasionally, someone survives just long enough to become whispered about in mess tents and candlelit barracks, half fact, half fear. And sometimes, if you're particularly unlucky, you get assigned to work beside one. Her name is Paulina. At least, that's what she told you. Could have been a pseudonym, could have been her real name. It doesn't matter. Everyone just calls her the Ice Widow. You meet her at dusk, just outside the edge of a birch forest. Command hands you a slip of paper with coordinates, a time, and a single word. Observe. So you do. She arrives silently, stepping over roots and snow like they aren't even there. Her coat is patched, but tight. Her rifle is clean, perfectly oiled, and worn from use in the way a favorite knife might be. She looks at you once, says nothing, and keeps walking. You fall in line. She doesn't ask your name. You don't ask hers again. She points at a hill in the distance, raises 2 fingers, then kneels. That's your cue. 2 targets, uphill. Got it. You crawl side by side, belly to snow, rifles slung low. And the whole time, you feel like you're trying to match the rhythm of a shadow. Paulina breathes differently, moves differently. It's like her bones forgot how to panic. You, meanwhile, are sweating under 3 layers of frost-covered wool. Finally, she stops, pulls her scope to her eye. A long pause. Then she lowers it and whispers, "He's reading." You follow her line of sight. There, in the upper window of a distant barn, a German officer sits with a cigarette in one hand and a book in the other. She waits. Not for the shot, but for the page turn. Only when he blinks, looking down, does she fire. A single crack. Then stillness. You don't even watch him fall. You're too busy watching her. Paulina wipes the scope with a scrap of wool and mutters, "He should have finished the chapter." Then she's moving again. You're still on the ground. This is your new partner. And suddenly, your odds of survival feel both better and worse. You spend 3 days with her. 3 long, quiet, terrifying days. She doesn't talk unless it's useful. She doesn't eat unless it's night. And she never ever sleeps more than 20 minutes at a time. On the second night, you make the mistake of asking how many confirmed kills she has. She shrugs. "I stopped counting at 70. You laugh nervously. She doesn't. Later, over a tin of boiled potatoes, she tells you she used to be a biology student. You're too surprised to hide it. Thought I'd be studying birds, she says, chewing slowly. Now I just shoot them if they give away my position. She doesn't smile. You don't ask follow-up questions. You hear stories about women like her, Soviet sharpshooters trained specifically to counter German snipers. Most were volunteers. Some were conscripted. All were lethal. Historians still argue whether female snipers were more effective because of physiology, steadier hands, lower heart rates, or simply because they had more to prove. What's undeniable is this: the Germans feared them, especially ones like Paulina. You watch her skin a rabbit on the third night, her hands precise and dispassionate. She does it while humming a lullaby. You don't recognize it. You don't ask her who it's for. On the fourth morning, she vanishes. No warning, no note, just gone. You crawl out of the blind alone, your rifle heavier than it was yesterday. You never see her again. But you hear about her, months later, from a passing scout. Paulina the Ice Widow, he says. She's up near Leningrad now, teaching others. Teaching. You think about what she might be saying. How to hold your breath. How to wait until the page turns. How to forget what warmth feels like, so you stop missing it. You wonder if she still hums lullabies while she loads her rifle. You wonder if she remembers you. But most of all, you wonder how she stayed so calm. Because that's the part that haunts you more than her kill count, more than the silence, more than the shot. It's how utterly still she was, as if she had already died a long time ago, and just hadn't told her body yet. You return to your usual solo post the next week. Everything feels thinner, like the world has less weight now, like the snow falls softer, but you don't notice it land. You catch yourself mimicking her, adjusting your stance, holding your breath before a shot, waiting for the blink, the shift, the moment of distraction. And, terrifyingly, it works. You start hitting your targets more cleanly. You don't panic when you hear patrols nearby. You stay down longer, move slower. You start humming, once, then stop, embarrassed. But deep inside, a tiny part of you understands this war doesn't reward rage, or bravery, or passion. It rewards stillness. You keep that lesson. You carry it like a charm, not around your neck, but in your breath, your bones, your trigger finger. And when you lie down in the snow again, adjusting your aim, blending into the earth like nothing more than a forgotten scarecrow, you find yourself whispering, "He should have finished the chapter." The order comes at midnight, hand-delivered on damp paper, half-frozen and barely legible. A scribble from some commander you've never met, advance 2 kilometers northeast. Recon German movement near Pine Crest Ridge. Stay silent. Return only if safe. Only if safe. That's cute. Because nothing is safe when you're heading behind enemy lines. You fold the note into a tiny square and shove it deep into your inner coat pocket, where it will slowly dissolve into pulp over the next few days. Not that it matters. Orders in this war are like snowflakes, fragile, short-lived, and utterly indifferent to your feelings. You pack quickly. Rifle, knife, spare cloth for the scope, 1 strip of black bread, and the canteen that's mostly ice. You tighten your boots with string. The left one's starting to separate at the toe. You'll fix it with wire later, if there is a later. Then you slip into the dark. The forest is different at night. Less like a place, more like a feeling. Everything seems closer. Trees lean in. Shadows move when they shouldn't. You keep low, rifle across your back, crawling in that familiar, awkward shuffle you've perfected over the months. A slow, miserable inchworm with a grudge. Your breath hangs behind you in little puffs that look far too visible. You chew on it, figuratively, and consider crawling backward just to erase your own trail. The air tastes of wood smoke and old fear. Somewhere ahead is the ridge. German patrols. Possibly a machine gun nest or two, if the rumors are true. But you're not supposed to engage. You're supposed to watch. To slip in and slip out. Easy. Like threading a needle blindfolded while someone throws knives at your head. Historians still argue whether these solo recon sniper assignments were actually strategic genius or just convenient ways to get rid of problem soldiers. Soldiers like you, quiet, expendable, unnervingly comfortable with silence. You pause near a frozen stream, ears straining. A twig snaps. You freeze. Wait. Then nothing. Probably an animal, or a very careful human. You cross the stream by crawling along a log slick with frost, every movement so slow it feels like an hour passes before you reach the other side. You breathe again, gently. You're halfway there. The pine ridge looms ahead like a giant spine cracking out of the earth. The trees are thicker here, the snow deeper. You feel every inch of it in your knees. And then you see it. Movement. Not close, but not far enough to ignore. 3 German soldiers moving through the woods. Not marching, scanning. Their rifles are loose but ready. They're on alert. Looking for you? No. Can't be. You're just one sniper with a tattered scarf and a gun held together by electrical tape. You drop into the snow, slow as a shadow falling across a table. The men pass 20 meters to your right. One pauses. Lights a cigarette. You resist the urge to scoff. Night patrol with a cigarette? Might as well wave a red flag and yell, "I'm here." Still, you admire his recklessness. He exhales, and for a moment the light of the flame casts his face in gold. He's young. Maybe your age, maybe younger. You don't shoot. You weren't sent here to shoot. And frankly, killing a guy with cold hands and a nicotine problem doesn't feel heroic. They pass. You wait 5 more minutes. Then you move. Pine Crest Ridge. It's steeper than you expected. You climb in silence, clawing through brambles and ice-covered roots. Your gloves catch on every thorn. Blood mixes with snow. You keep going. At the top, you find a rock outcropping, flat, stable, with just enough room to set up your rifle. You crawl into position and adjust your scope. And there it is. The German supply road. You weren't sure it existed. Rumors said it was carved through the forest for quick winter transport. Now you see it, a narrow path, tire tracks frozen into the ground, flanked by crates and guarded by men with too much gear and not enough warmth. You count 2 trucks, a sled team, 6 guards. You record the details mentally. No paper, no sound. Then, as you prepare to pull back, a second group emerges from the tree line. Not soldiers, prisoners, Soviet by the look of them. Emaciated, wrapped in burlap sacks and rags, shackled. You feel something stir in your stomach that hasn't stirred in weeks. Anger. They're being marched, no, paraded, down the path toward a clearing where the ground has been disturbed. Shallow mounds, not graves but close. You see one man stumble. A German officer steps forward. You hope, just for a second, that he helps him up. He does not. You look away before the butt of the rifle makes contact. You press your cheek harder into the rifle stock. Not to steady your aim, just to feel something. But again, you don't shoot. You don't get to decide what's worth it. You're here to observe. Still, you whisper an apology. Not to the prisoners, to your trigger finger. The way back is slower. You're more cautious now. You stop every 20 meters. Listen. Watch. You swear you hear your own thoughts echoing off the trees. Then, a sound. Different. Mechanical. Click. You roll instantly. just in time for the mine beneath you to not go off. False pressure trigger? Frozen fuse? Miracle? You don't care. You keep crawling, heart in your throat, spine locked straight with terror. You make it back to the stream by dawn, and by some act of mercy, to your trench before full daylight. You collapse into the snow, cold, tired, stained with everything except glory. You pull your scarf over your mouth and laugh softly, bitterly. The German soldier's cigarette still burns in your memory, and you realize something you hadn't before. You've stopped thinking of them as the enemy. You just think of them as other cold people with guns. You lie still. Again. This time, you're tucked beneath a fallen tree, branches twisted like broken fingers above your head. Snow drips onto your neck, one slow, cruel drop at a time. You haven't moved in 12 hours. You're in a sniper duel now, and it's not glamorous. It's not a test of bravery or precision. It's a crawling, quiet descent into madness. Somewhere out there, across this ravine, is another sniper. Probably German. Definitely good. He took a shot at your spotter at dawn, missed by an inch. Your partner's alive but rattled, back behind the ridge, doing that thing soldiers do when fear curls in their stomach, telling jokes to no one. But you didn't laugh. You dropped low, scope already scanning, breath caught halfway up your throat. And you've been here ever since. Waiting. Because that's what a sniper duel really is, waiting. Not shooting. Not sneaking. Just watching and daring the other person to blink first. It's psychological trench warfare, all crawl, no glory. Historians still debate how often these duels really happened. Some say they were rare, inflated by war stories and post-battle bragging. Others insist they were common, but unreported, because no one survived to file the paperwork. Either way, you are now one of the lucky few who know they are very, very real and absolutely miserable. It starts like this. You see something, a flicker of movement, the glint of light off glass, a branch that shifts without wind. You don't move, you just watch. You calculate angles. You consider where you would be hiding if you were him. Behind that log? No, too obvious. In that bush? Too soft. That hill with the weird patch of snow that hasn't melted? Maybe. You stare at it. Your eye aches. Your finger twitches. You want to blink but don't. Then, he tests you. A bird call. Too perfect. You don't fall for it. You breathe slow. Let your heart calm down. 5 minutes pass. Then 10. You shift. Just slightly. Enough to relieve the pressure in your spine. And then, crack. A shot. Loud. Close. It hits the log behind you. Bark explodes near your head. He saw the movement. You nearly paid for it. You don't panic. You can't panic. Instead, you slither left, quietly, slowly, like a snake made of frostbite and fury. You reposition behind a low ridge, just enough elevation for a new angle. You peer again. That melted snow patch? It's different now. You saw it earlier. It was untouched. But now there's a line in it, a groove, maybe a boot print, maybe a scope lens that brushed too close. You aim at it. Wait, hold your breath. Then, nothing. You don't take the shot. You can't risk a miss. You chew on your lip. Taste blood. Then ice. You wait another hour. At some point, you lose track of time. It's not a linear thing anymore. You measure it in tremors, tiny body shivers, eyelid twitches, the number of times your stomach growls. You start hearing things that aren't there. Your mother's voice, the hum of a streetcar, a melody from a music box you had as a child. Your teeth ache, your back throbs. You whisper to yourself, not words, just sounds. The duel continues. At one point, you think you see movement again. That same patch of snow. But now, there's a shape, A slight rise, a soft curve that doesn't belong, a shoulder. You adjust your aim, hold, focus, then wind. Just enough to stir some branches, and you realize it is him. He's watching you, through his own scope. Your breath stops. The math runs through your head. Time to target, wind speed, elevation, trajectory. You've run this formula 100 times, but you also know he's doing the exact same math. The shot comes down to who flinches. You wait, and wait. Then, in a moment that doesn't feel real, you see it. He moves, just slightly. Adjusting his elbow, you fire. The rifle cracks. Silence. Then, a dull thud. A shape slumps into the snow. No scream, no sound, just the quiet falling of a body surrendering to gravity. You exhale, slow, controlled. Then you wait. 30 minutes, maybe more. Finally, you crawl. Every inch feels like a lifetime. You reach the spot. There he is, young, blonde, eyes open but gone. You kneel beside him, not to gloat, just to understand. His rifle is pristine, better than yours. His scope is shiny, modern, clean. He has a small notebook in his pocket with neat, tiny handwriting. You read a line. March 7, snow fell again. Missed the shot. Saw movement. Will adjust angle tomorrow. You tuck it back in. You don't take anything, not even his rations. Somehow, that feels wrong. Instead, you whisper, "Good shot." Then you bury him, as best you can. The snow is soft here. Back at your nest, your spotter is asleep, or pretending. You lie beside him, face to the sky, eyes wide. You don't feel proud. You don't feel safe. You just feel still. And you know this won't be your last duel, but you also know you survived this one. And in this war, that's the closest thing you get to victory. Your stomach groans louder than a wounded tank. You'd laugh if it didn't hurt so much. It's been, what, 2 days since your last real meal? Maybe 3. You've stopped counting because counting implies a schedule, and out here, time runs on hunger, not hours. You reach into your coat pocket and pull out what passes for food. A fist-sized hunk of stale black bread. It's so dense it could stop a bullet. You break off a piece. It flakes like concrete. A nibble becomes a chew, becomes a workout. Your spotter, barely old enough to shave, watches you with quiet envy. You break the rest in half and hand it over. He tries not to look grateful, but fails. "Thanks," he mutters, mouth already full. "Chew slow," you say. "Make it last." He nods. Doesn't. The Red Army doesn't exactly roll out buffets for its snipers. You're expected to live off the land, share when you can, and scavenge when you must. Most days, it's a rotation of stale bread, frozen potato bits, hard fat, and whatever suspicious meat was boiled into last night's soup. One time, you think it might have been rat. One time, you know it was rat. You once caught a squirrel. Tiny, pathetic thing, but it fed you for a day. You roasted it with matches, wrapped in a tin can lid. It tasted like burnt sock and triumph. Rations are rationed. Supplies get lost, stolen, or simply vanish into the void between command and front line. You've seen entire crates of food redirected to officers' tents. The rest of you get crumbs and sarcasm. Historians still argue whether this logistical mess was a product of war chaos or a system-wide flaw in Soviet supply chains. Either way, it ends with you gnawing on a biscuit that doubles as a shuriken. And here's the worst part. You get used to it. Your canteen clinks dully as you shake it. Ice. Again, you tuck it into your coat, hoping your body heat will melt it just enough for a sip. Your spotter pulls out something from his pouch, wrapped in cloth, handled like a treasure. Vodka, he grins. Stole it off a tank driver. You raise an eyebrow. Share. He nods. You each take a sip. It burns in the best way. For a moment, you feel human, warm, real. Then it fades, and you're back to being a sentient icicle in a crusty overcoat. You ask him if he ever dreams about food. All the time, he says. What's your dream meal? He smiles. Mama's borscht, with extra sour cream, and black bread that's still soft. You nod. Close your eyes. Try to remember what warmth smells like. Not fire, not smoke, but warmth, that rich, rising steam from a bowl of soup that hasn't been made by a grumpy field cook with no sense of seasoning. You remember dumplings, just once, years ago, at a wedding, stuffed with potato and dill, buttered. Real butter. You nearly cried. You try not to think of it too hard now. The craving gnaws at your stomach, worse than any rat bite. You make the mistake of asking the spotter about his worst meal. He tells you about a time when their camp was snowed in. Rations didn't arrive for 5 days. On the 3rd day, someone found a dead mule. They boiled the leather from its saddle and chewed it for hours. It tasted like bitter rope. On the 5th day, they found an old stash of pickled herring, frozen solid. They chipped away at it with knives. On the 6th day, rations finally came. Half a loaf of moldy bread, he says, and a piece of salt pork that tasted like boot. You both laugh. Not because it's funny, but because you need the noise. That's something no one tells you, how often hunger and humor sit side by side in war. You either laugh or you scream, and screaming draws attention, so you laugh. Later that day, you spot a German soldier through your scope. He's resting against a tree, helmet off, eating something wrapped in paper. You zoom in. It's a sandwich. Real bread. Soft. Cheese. Maybe sausage. You can't be sure. You can practically smell it through the glass. Your mouth waters so hard it hurts. He takes a bite. Slowly. Chews. Sighs. You don't shoot. Not out of mercy. Not even out of tactical calculation. You just can't. Not when he looks so content. So painfully normal. You lower your scope and look away. You'd give your rifle for a bite of that sandwich. That night, your spotter dreams aloud. Mushrooms, he mumbles. Big ones, grilled, with garlic. You chuckle. I'd eat a boot, you whisper. You already did. Yeah, but with seasoning this time. You lie back. The stars above are distant and silent. You wonder what food will taste like after the war. If anything ever will again. You once heard of a sniper who survived on melted snow and birch bark for 6 days. By day 4, he swore the bark tasted like cinnamon. By day 5, he was licking moss off tree trunks. By day 6, he shot a deer and cried harder at the smell than the kill. You don't know if the story's true, but you believe it. Because right now, the only thing keeping your body moving is memory and imagination. You drift to sleep that night with the taste of phantom bread on your tongue. You dream of soup and wake up chewing air. You're looking through your scope again, but this time something's different. It's not fogged. The lens is clean. The glass is clear. And yet, you can't see right. Everything's blurry around the edges, the center too sharp, like your eyes can't decide which part of reality they trust. You blink. Rub the scope. Blink again. Still the same. You shift position, thinking maybe it's the angle. Maybe the sunlight's hitting your face wrong. But the problem's not the rifle. It's you. You're tired. But not normal tired. This is the kind of fatigue that builds up in the bones, the kind that comes from too many hours lying motionless, Too many sleepless nights staring into branches, too many frozen mornings thinking your toes might never thaw. You breathe, steady, slow, like you were trained. But even that feels like work now. Your spotter says something, but you don't quite catch it. The words arrive like they had to swim upstream to reach you. You nod anyway, pretend you heard. He doesn't press. The sky is overcast, and the world looks washed out, like an old photograph left in the snow. Trees, sky, ice, repeat. You blink again. Now there's something else in your scope. A figure. Distant, barely visible. You adjust the zoom. It's a man. German uniform. Helmet. Rifle. But he's not moving. Just standing. Still, watching the tree line. You wait. Expect him to shift. Walk. Adjust his belt. Something. He doesn't. You look again. Gone. Just trees now. You pull back from the scope and blink furiously. What's wrong? Your spotter finally asks. Nothing, you mumble. Just tired. This isn't new. The older snipers warned you. Eventually, the line between real and not real begins to blur. When all you see is death, when all you hear is silence, your brain starts inventing companions. Some get lucky, visions of loved ones, childhood dogs, soothing dreams. Others? Well, you've heard stories. One man swore he saw himself through his own scope, lying in the exact same pose, but older, thinner, eyes hollow. He kept watching, kept waiting for the reflection to move. It never did. Eventually he fired, right into the dirt in front of him. Historians still argue whether this was a symptom of sleep deprivation, starvation, or just the soul cracking under pressure. In the field, though, everyone agrees. If your eyes start showing you things that aren't there, you've been out too long. You wipe your eyes. Then try again. This time the scope is merciful. No ghosts, just gray trees, frost-bitten bushes, a distant fox curling into sleep. But the feeling lingers. You lean back, rub your face, and try to remember the last time you really slept. Not napped, not collapsed into unconsciousness, but actually slept, dreamt, rolled over, woke to warmth. Nothing comes. Your spotter offers you a strip of dried meat. It's tough, tastes like sadness. You chew without enthusiasm. You ever see things? You ask. He looks at you, then looks away, shrugs. I saw my father last week, he says quietly. Behind a snowbank, smiling. He's been dead 5 years. You nod. That's all you need to say. Later that day, the snow begins to fall again. Big, lazy flakes. The kind that feel peaceful in another life. You're watching the tree line. Tracking a possible German scout patrol, rumored to be skirting the edge of your sector. Nothing's confirmed. Nothing ever is. Through your scope, everything slows. Snow falls in slow motion. Branches bend like dancers. The world becomes soft. Then you see them. Figures. 3. Maybe 4. But they're not walking. They're floating. No footsteps. No sound. Just gliding shapes in long coats and blank faces. You drop the scope. Nothing. Just snow. You scan the field with your naked eye. Still nothing. You lean forward, press your face to the stock and check again. Now it's empty. You sit back. Wipe your hands on your pants. Realize you're shaking. Not from cold. From doubt. You remember a saying one of the old-timers passed down during your brief training. When the forest starts whispering, it's time to rotate out. But no one's rotating you out. You're lucky if anyone remembers where you're stationed. Your letters don't get replies. Your last supply drop missed your sector by nearly a kilometer. You found it buried under a snowdrift, gnawed at by wolves. You're not a person anymore. You're a position on a map, a symbol next to a dotted line. You start hearing things now, even without the scope. Boots in the snow that aren't there. Whispered German phrases that vanish when you turn your head. Once, you swore you heard a woman humming. Paulina's lullaby, maybe? You whisper back, just in case. Stop! It's your voice, or maybe someone else's. Stop! You do. You sit still, you breathe, you count to 20, then again, and again. Finally, your vision clears, you blink. Through your scope, there's nothing but forest, and for the first time all day, you believe it. For now. The man falls before he knows he's dead. One moment, he's walking casually across a snowy clearing, probably scouting, maybe just unlucky. The next, your shot takes him just above the collarbone, spinning him sideways into the snow. You feel nothing. No rush, no guilt, not even relief. It's a clean kill, center mass, downed in one shot. You should be proud. You aren't. Your spotter exhales sharply. Nice one. You nod, already scanning the edges of your scope. Because you've been here before. Too many times. A kill doesn't mean you live. In fact, it often means the opposite. Because for every soldier you drop, there's another two who saw the flash, or heard the crack, or felt the silence shift. And now, they know you're here. You used to feel powerful after a confirmed kill. The way the recoil kissed your shoulder, the silence after. The proof you were still a ghost in the trees. But now the shot feels more like knocking over a hornet's nest. And hornets don't like ghosts. You lie perfectly still. You know what comes next. First, the shout. In German. You don't need to speak it to understand panic. Then, movement. Boots. Barking. Weapons raised. You adjust your scope. The first soldier you killed is still in the snow, his rifle half buried beneath him. Two others run to his side. They kneel, look confused. One shakes him. No response. You wait. Another steps into the clearing. Helmet gleaming in the dull winter sun. Your finger tightens, then stops. Too many targets. If you shoot now, you give away your position for sure. It's tempting. Too tempting. But that's how snipers die, not from cowardice, but from greed. So you watch. And wait. Again. They scatter. Just like you expected. One heads toward the trees. Two others vanish behind a fallen log. Another starts scanning with binoculars. You lower your scope. Crawl backward. A foot at a time. There's no such thing as a clean extraction. Just quieter ones. You count your breaths. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 4, 5. Your spotter keeps his head low, following you. He whispers, "We shouldn't have shot." He's right, and wrong. You had to. But also, you didn't. This is what sniper warfare does to you. It makes every decision the wrong one. Historians still argue whether sniper kills changed the tide of battles or just shifted the terror from one set of lungs to another. Some say the psychological damage was worth more than the bullet itself. Others think it just prolonged a slow war. All you know is this: no matter how clean the shot, the mess comes after. You reach your fallback spot. It's a shallow depression behind a tree line, flanked by thick undergrowth and a few strategically placed logs. You've used it before. Dug into it with your own numb hands. It's not comfortable, but it's yours. You settle in, rifle still warm from the shot. You look through your scope. The body is still there, but now there are more. German soldiers crawling through the field. One points. Another gestures behind the ridge. You know that posture. They're calling in artillery. You don't wait to be precise. You crawl again. North this time. Toward the rocks. Your spotter keeps pace, though he's breathing harder now. He wasn't ready for this kind of extraction. You were. You're always ready for the consequences, because the trigger doesn't end things, it starts them. The first shell lands far to the left, just a warning. The second one is closer. You feel it in your teeth, in your ribs, in the roots of your hair. The ground lifts, then falls. The snow explodes into mist. You dive, land hard, rib into rock. You don't scream. You just move. Shells tear the air around you, one after another. They aren't trying to be accurate. They're trying to panic you, flush you out, make you run upright like a deer on fire. You don't give them the satisfaction. You hug the ground. Let the chaos pass over you like a wave. You hear your spotter shout, not in pain, in fear. Then nothing. You call his name. No answer. You inch backward, belly to the dirt. Find him. Face down, breathing. You shake him once. He blinks, eyes wide. You pull him by the collar until you reach a gully, small, shallow, just enough to hide 2 men and a rifle. You lie there, covered in dirt, blood, and shame, and you remember something Paulina once told you. Every shot makes you more alone. You understand now, you're not just hunted, you're marked. The scope you carry is a beacon. The kill you made, a spotlight. You think back to the man you dropped. You didn't know his name. You never will. But you still see his face. Just for a second. Frozen in time. Then gone. Like all the others. Like you will be someday. You stay in the gully until night. Long after the shells stop. Long after the Germans stop shouting. Long after the snow covers the man you killed. And when you finally move again, you do so with a strange feeling in your chest. Not guilt, not pride, just emptiness. The same kind of emptiness that always follows a perfect shot. You're awake before the sun. Not because of discipline, not because of orders, but because of the sound. That horrible, unmistakable sound. Whistling. Not the cheerful kind, not a tune, but the long rising shriek of incoming shells. A high-pitched scream that seems to grab you by the spine and pull. You don't need to be told what's happening. Friendly fire. You've been in the same hide for 3 days now, moving only at night, eating almost nothing, sleeping in 30-second intervals between owl calls and your own pulse ticking too loud. But someone, somewhere, thinks this forest is crawling with Germans. They're not wrong, but they're not aiming right, either, because right now, they're shelling you. The first impact isn't close, but it's loud. Your ears ring, your teeth ache, and a patch of snow above you slides down like a collapsing ceiling. The second lands closer. Your spotter wakes with a start, fumbling for his rifle like it's a baby someone just dropped. "Friendly?" he shouts. You give him a look that says what part of this feels friendly. He shuts up. You both stay low, flat to the dirt, eyes flicking toward the treetops, and then it happens. A shell tears the sky wide and lands just beyond the ridge. A shower of wood, snow, and fire crashes over your hide. A branch smacks your helmet. Dirt fills your mouth. You cough, then choke, then freeze. Because coughing gets you killed. It's hard to explain how surreal it feels to be shelled by your own side. It's like watching someone punch you in a dream. Slow, wrong, almost comedic. Like the war turned around and bit itself. But there's no time for philosophy now. You crawl, not away from the shells, but through them. Why? Because the forest behind you is wide open. No cover, no concealment, just 20 meters of snow and hope. And the shells aren't stopping. They're dialing in. Your spotter follows, dragging his rifle like a wounded limb. You don't speak. Words are wasted. You both know what this is. a reposition. A gamble. You make it to the second blind. One you scouted days ago. It's shallow, half collapsed, barely better than nothing. But it's not the kill zone, so it's paradise. You slump against the icy ground, chest heaving, hands numb. Your spotter leans against a rock and mutters, "I think we're ghosts." You nod. Ghosts with boot rot and cracked ribs. Still, you're alive. Later, when it's quiet, you check your supplies. 3 cartridges, a lump of bread so frozen it might double as a hammer, and 1 small battered mirror. Not for shaving. Not anymore. It's for checking around corners. And for looking at your face, which you do now. You don't recognize it. Sunken cheeks, cracked lips, a patchy beard, eyes that don't blink enough. You tilt the mirror, catch sight of your spotter. His hands are shaking. He's trying to load a round, misses the chamber, tries again, fails. You walk over, sit beside him, say nothing. Just offer your hand. He passes the rifle. You load it for him. Neither of you mention it, because he's not the first to shake like that, and he won't be the last. You once heard about a sniper team caught in friendly fire for 3 days straight. They wrote messages in the snow with pine branches, "Soviet here. Stop shelling." We bleed red too. Didn't help. Eventually they crawled into German lines just to get captured, safer than staying where they were. You don't know if it's true. But it feels true. Because right now, you'd rather face a patrol than another round from your own artillery. Historians still argue how much friendly fire happened in the Soviet campaigns. Official records are vague. Survivors are vaguer. But every frontline soldier knows, sometimes the people behind you are more dangerous than the ones ahead. You stay in the hideout until dusk. Then crawl out, quietly, to survey the wreckage. You find a crater where your last nest was. Scattered branches, burnt cloth, shards of tin. You also find a body. You approach, rifle raised. It's not a German, it's Soviet. An infantry scout. Wrong place. Wrong time. He was probably sent to check if the area was clear before the next barrage. Spoiler, it wasn't. You take his ID tag. Not for bureaucracy. For respect. You'll pass it along, if you make it back. That night, you and your spotter eat the bread. Every frozen bite a toothache. You don't talk. Not about the scout. Not about the shells. Not about the fact that your own country almost erased you today. Again, you just sit in silence. Snow falls gently now. Quiet. Innocent. Like it didn't just bury your last hiding place under shrapnel and fire. You lie back. Watch the flakes dance between trees. And wonder, if the Germans don't kill you, will they? It happens fast. There's no sniper duel. No long crawl through snow. Just the sharp crack of a rifle. A burst of heat in your thigh. And then the world tipping sideways as you hit the ground hard, rifle tumbling from your hands. You've been shot. Not dead. Not yet. But definitely not walking out of here anytime soon. The pain doesn't come all at once. First it's just pressure, like someone jammed a hot rock into your leg. Then the heat spreads, pulsing with every heartbeat, sharp and bright and maddening. You grit your teeth. You try to breathe slow. Your spotter's face appears above you, pale and wide-eyed. "Where?" he hisses, already fumbling to tear open your coat, trying to see the wound. "Thigh," you gasp. "Clean through." He nods, starts wrapping it with one of your rags, pulling tight enough to make your vision sparkle. "Sorry," he says. You nod back. "Do it right." Because if he doesn't, you'll bleed into the snow and become a cautionary tale. Getting wounded out here isn't like in the stories. There's no dramatic stretcher dash, no brave medics storming in under fire. There's just you, a freezing forest, and a friend with shaky hands trying to remember what part of the leg not to tie off. He finishes the wrap, then frowns. "We need to move." You laugh bitter. "I can't stand." He pulls off his scarf, ties it into a crude sling under your arms. "Then crawl." You do. Sort of. You drag yourself forward with your elbows while he carries your rifle and covers the rear. Every inch is fire. The snow that used to feel numb now feels electric, stabbing into the open wound. And you realize, this is how people die slow. You make it maybe 20 meters before you collapse behind a tree. You're dizzy, cold. The blood loss is catching up now. Your thoughts stretch out like melting ice. Your spotter crouches beside you, panicked. "What do I do?" You blink slowly, try to smile. You run. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't move. He just stares at you, shaking his head. You look up at the canopy. The sky is gray. The snow is falling again, soft and slow, like ash. "This is stupid," you whisper. He nods. Somewhere far away, you hear another rifle shot. Then another. Not close, but not far enough either. You grab his sleeve. "Go." Still, he hesitates. You reach into your coat pocket, pull out your small mirror, press it into his hand. For corners, you rasp. "Don't use it to shave. It'll just depress you." That earns a shaky grin. Then, finally, he speaks. "I'm not leaving you." You blink. Then you're dumber than you look. Yep. And somehow, despite the pain, despite the cold, you laugh. You drift. It's not sleep, not yet. It's that weird, warm, in-between state where your body tries to pretend everything's fine so you'll stop panicking. You think of strange things. The smell of laundry soap. A song you used to whistle without knowing the words. The way your mother peeled potatoes, fast, like a magician. You think about your rifle, wonder if it's still close. You hope no one steals it. You hope he doesn't get killed dragging your half-dead body through this nightmare. You hope this isn't how your story ends. Your spotter builds a shelter. It's more of a pile, really. Snow. Branches. A hollow between two trees. He rolls you into it, gently, like placing a baby bird into a nest. Then he covers you with his coat. You want to tell him not to. He needs it more than you do. But you're too tired, too warm, too still. You wake up hours later. It's dark now. Completely. A small fire burns 10 feet away, well hidden, almost smokeless. Your leg throbs. Wrap tighter. Not bleeding anymore. You glance over. He's still there. He brought water. He brought a stolen biscuit. He even left you the soft side. You chew slowly. Taste mud. Then grin. "Still dumb," you whisper. He nods, mouth full. Getting wounded in the Soviet army doesn't guarantee anything. You're not headed back to safety. There's no evac. There's no medal. There's just a new category. You're not a sniper anymore. You're a burden. And if you can't pull a trigger, then your value is exactly 0. Some commanders just lose wounded snipers in the woods. Others reassign them to mine clearing. With their feet. Historians don't argue much about this, because the records are missing. Convenient that. You lie awake most of the night. Listening. Waiting. Your spotter takes the first watch. You pretend to sleep so he doesn't worry. But deep down, you know the truth. You might survive this. You might not. But you'll remember it. Not just the pain. Not just the crawling. But the fact that someone stayed when they didn't have to. The cold has teeth. And now, it's chewing on your mind. It started with the usual symptoms. Numb fingers, aching joints, the sharp sting of frost sneaking into your boots. But now, it's inside you. Deep. Like a whisper in your bones, asking gently whether it's time to stop fighting. You say no. At least, you think you say no. Your lips might have moved. Or maybe that was just your thoughts echoing off the frozen inside of your skull. Either way, you're still here. Sort of. Your spotter managed to find you something stronger than pain. He brought vodka, more than a sip this time, and a chunk of chocolate from a German soldier's pack. You don't ask how he got it. He just shrugs and says, he wasn't using it anymore. You both pretend it's a joke. It's been 4 days since the bullet. The leg is bad. Not gangrenous yet, but close. The bleeding stopped, but the swelling hasn't. The bandages smell like wet metal and regret. You've stopped checking it. You've stopped checking a lot of things. Time, weather, reality. Because the truth is, the sniper's mind doesn't snap in half like a brittle stick. It crumbles, softly. Over time, you catch yourself talking to your rifle now. Not much, just a few muttered phrases, a nickname. A thank you when it doesn't jam. You once caught yourself whispering an apology. For what? Missing? Using it too long? Leaning on it like a crutch? You don't know. You just felt like you owed it something. You also named your bullets. Not all of them, just the last 5. One's for home, one's for Paulina, one's for bread, one's for silence. And the last you haven't decided. But it feels important. Your spotter notices. Of course he does. He doesn't say anything. But he's quieter now, gentler. He hands you food before you ask. Pours water without being told. And when you wake from nightmares, he doesn't ask what they were. He just hums. A low, wandering melody. Something like a lullaby. Not quite in tune, but steady. It helps. Sometimes. You once read, somewhere, that people in isolation begin to feel their own thoughts turning against them. That memories mix with dreams. That time becomes elastic, snapping between too fast and too slow. You think about that now. A lot. Because you don't remember what day it is. You barely remember what year it is. You still know the war is happening. But the details, they blur. You know where your rifle is. You know where your spotter is. But everything else? Gone. You used to be able to tell how long you'd been on mission by the growth of your fingernails. Now they're dirty, cracked, and untrustworthy. You used to shave, once a week even, just to feel human. You don't anymore. You don't want to feel human. Being human out here hurts too much, so you go quiet, even quieter than before. Not because you're hiding from the enemy, but because your thoughts are too loud. You think about the trees a lot. How they don't care who wins. How they stand still, season after season, while men lie beneath them, brief, noisy, stupid. You find yourself apologizing to them sometimes. Sorry for the mess. Sorry for bleeding on your roots. Sorry for the noise. You don't know if they accept it, but they don't interrupt. You once saw a crow land near a fallen soldier, pecked at his hand, hopped around, watched you, bold and shiny-eyed. You didn't shoot it. You couldn't. It felt like the only witness left. The dreams are worse now. When you do sleep, which isn't often, it's short, brutal. You wake with your rifle clutched to your chest. You wake convinced someone is standing just behind you. You wake thinking you've been shot again. Once, you woke up laughing. You don't remember the joke. Your spotter tries to keep you tethered. He talks about the village he wants to return to. A real bed. A stew pot. A girl with red hair and a mean right hook. He says it like a promise. You nod. But you don't believe in beds anymore. You believe in snow. You believe in shadows. You believe in waiting. You try to remember your own dreams. Before the war. Before the rifle. But it's like trying to hold smoke. All that's left are instincts. Breath slow. Scope steady. Don't cough. Don't blink. Don't die. Not yet. You speak to yourself more now, in full sentences, sometimes in her voice, Paulina's, sometimes your mother's. Once, your own voice startled you. It had gotten so low, so hollow, you didn't recognize it. You clean your rifle by habit, even though your fingers barely bend, even though your eyes blur, even though your legs throb like distant thunder. It calms you. It's the only ritual that still makes sense. You imagine doing it forever, even after the war, even after everyone else is gone. You and your rifle. One breath, one shot, and silence. Always silence. It ends without ceremony. No trumpet, no explosion, no cheer rising from the treetops. Just a message, delivered by a boy in a too big coat who walks into your sector without a helmet and shouts in a cracking voice, "Cease fire! Cease fire! It's over!" At first you think he's joking, or delirious, or maybe he's just bad at lying, but then others echo it. War's over. The Germans surrendered. They signed it. You lie in your hide and stare at the canopy for a long time. Because what does that even mean? It's over. You still smell gunpowder. Your leg still hurts. Your fingers are still numb. There's still a bullet in your coat pocket you haven't named yet. Peace doesn't feel like this. It feels like confusion. Like snow landing on an open wound. Like silence that no longer has a purpose. Your spotter is grinning. Laughing even. He pulls you up, gently, and says, "We're going home. Home." The word hits you harder than any shell. You nod. But you don't pack, because you never really unpacked. Your life fits in a pouch. Your memories fit in a half-frozen mirror. You tuck your rifle beneath your arm and start walking. Slowly, every step echoes with something you can't name. The trees look different now, less like threats, more like witnesses. The snow feels softer underfoot, or maybe your boots have finally flattened out your nerves. You pass old nests, hides you dug with frost-bitten fingers, bloodstains you left in the dirt, places where people breathed their last, still clutching their rifles like questions that never got answers. You walk past all of them. Without a word. You've said enough to the dead. At base camp, no one cheers when you arrive. They're too tired, too quiet. Some are packing. Some are just sitting, blinking at the horizon like it's something they forgot how to read. You report in. Name, position, injury. They write it down. No handshake, no medal. Just a nod and a suggestion that you get some rest. You want to ask rest from what? You haven't moved in weeks. You find a bed. A real one. Mattress. Blanket. 4 walls. You lie down. And your body fights it. Your legs twitch. Your spine arches. You can't stop looking at the windows. Every sound makes your hand twitch toward a rifle that isn't nearby. You get up. Lie on the floor. That's better. Colder, harder, familiar, safer. The next morning, a man you don't know brings you a bowl of soup. You thank him. You eat slowly. It tastes strange. Not bad, just unfamiliar. Too much salt, too much flavor. You chew like you're afraid it will vanish. Your spotter sits across from you, eyes glassy. "You gonna be all right?" he asks. You nod, because it's the only answer you've got. They ask if you want to go home. You pause. Do you? You think about the train, the village, the old bed, the faces that knew you before. Will they know you now? Can they? Your fingers curl unconsciously. Phantom rifle grip. Your breath catches like it always does when the wind changes. And you realize the war may be over. But you're still in it. Historians will debate many things about this war. The numbers, the tactics, the causes, the consequences. They won't talk much about you. They'll mention snipers, sure. They might even name a few. But your story? It stays here. In the woods, in the snow, in the silence that follows the shot. You board the train weeks later. No ceremony. Just a seat. Just a window. Trees blur past, and for once, you don't scan them for movement. You just let them go. One by one. You never name that last bullet. You carry it in your coat for months. Then one day, quietly, you bury it under a tree in your hometown. No words, no marker, just dirt and snow. Always snow. You lie still now. There's no rifle in your hands. No scope pressed to your eye. No cold creeping into your boots. Just a quiet room, maybe a fan humming softly in the corner. A blanket instead of a snowbank. Pillows instead of pine roots. Your breath slows. Your thoughts do too. Maybe you can still hear the wind rustling branches. Maybe your mind drifts back to those long frozen nights where you became a shadow, waiting for movement that may never come. But you're not there anymore. You're here, and it's okay to let go of the silence. You can rest now, not because it's safe, not because you earned it, but because it's time. The war is over. The rifle is gone. The ghosts? They'll visit from time to time. That's all right. Just greet them gently. They're not here to hurt you. They're only echoes of a place you once lived. But now you're somewhere new. Somewhere soft. Somewhere still, in a better way. So close your eyes. Let your breath deepen. And let the cold fall away like old snow from a warming roof. You don't need to watch the tree line anymore. Someone else will. Tonight you're just you, and you are safe. And you are home. Sleep well, sniper. You made it. End of script. Sweet